Is this working? Are these working? Yes? No? Yes? Good.
1, 2, 3. Am I working?
Yes.
All right, good. Thank you. Thank you, one person.
I think we're probably going to end up having a pretty free-flowing conversation. Steli and I talked a little bit beforehand, but we're going to focus on a lot of the things that you saw in the many, many emails that you've received from us over the last couple of weeks about hustle, about competition, about determination, about grit, stuff that is near and dear to Steli's heart for anybody here who reads any of the stuff he puts out. Steli, I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm going to read it. Steli's the co-founder and CEO of Close.io. He's Silicon Valley's most prominent sales hustler, a YC alum, advisor to several startups and entrepreneurs, and the author of The Ultimate Startup Guide to Outbound Sales. So, Steli, when you hear Silicon Valley's ultimate sales hustler, what does that mean?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. There's this quote from like, it's something around, what you don't have in talent, you have to make up in hustle. Right? I don't know who said that. So another way of saying Silicon Valley's most prominent sales hustler is Silicon Valley's least talented, successful person. Right? I don't know. I just make up with effort what I lack in talents.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to put it. If anybody Googles you, they're going to learn two things pretty quickly. One, they're probably going to learn that you have got a penchant for off-color language. And then they're also going to learn that there's an amazing talk out there that you put out that the team that was asking you to give the talk threw a name around, and they said, hustle or go home. And you interpreted that, and you said, no, it's go home and hustle. And then you outlined 3 tenets of what hustle really meant to you. Can you walk us through those?
Yeah, that was actually really interesting because that conference, they made me give the first talk and the last one. And the challenge was that the first one, kind of the opening keynote, the room was packed. They were like, you'd be the first person ever to get the last keynote to be as full as this one. Let's see if you can do that. So that was kind of how that happened. Just as a disclaimer, a little bit of a context, I feel super weird today. There's multiple things going on. One, like if you talk to me and I'm not as mobile as you would think, or if you think like, why is he like stretching his leg weirdly? There's not like some kind of a body language power play going on between the two of us. I had ACL surgery recently, so my knee is still kind of a mess. And then today, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I have, but I'm like, I'm hot, I'm cold. I feel slightly like on drugs, but I haven't taken anything to my knowledge. I've been hanging all day with my co-founder Anthony over there, the handsome blonde fellow. I don't know if you put something in the coffee we had this morning, but I feel super weird. So if I make no sense today, has nothing to do with that. And if I feel just out of it, or if you see me sweat, or chill or something, or change my colors, it has nothing to do with your question. My body language seems very critical, I might just be in pain. Like just giving that out as context to like, I feel a little funky, but I'm sure that this will have healing powers for me this session. Talk about having a room full of salespeople, my type of people, is always gonna be good for my body and soul and spirit. So, what the hell was the question? Oh, hustling. Yeah, that's simple. So that's very simple. I'm like, I don't remember what I was saying a second ago. So yeah, my formula is very simple. I do think that sales, although I think it's a beautiful thing, an essential thing for us humans, I do think that's very simple. I don't think that selling is that complicated. But it is challenging nonetheless. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. And to me, the formula is very straightforward. You show up, you follow up and follow through, and you go for the close, or you close. Do the 3 things. Showing up doesn't just have to mean in person. It can be in person, can be you pick up the phone call, you send an email, you show up, you make that first step to create a connection between you and another human being. And that's a crowded space, but still many people will be challenged by that. But then the follow-up and follow-through I find being like almost nobody's competing with you. Right? Sure. So that's where I find it's the easiest to really move the needle. And then going for the close is something that's also challenging for people, like really creating that moment of truth. As I think of it, that moment of beautiful truth, yes or no. Let's create a real outcome here versus leaving it in that beautifully comfortable space of maybe. right? The hopeful land of, I think they really like this and they are going to buy, but I don't know anything else about it and I'll leave them alone. And I'm going to be waiting for the money to just come in. So those are the 3 steps.
So I think the one that we probably all benefit from diving a little bit into is the second one.
Follow-up, yeah.
It's the follow-up, and you just touched on it too with the maybe thing. You've got this line that maybe is where startups go to die.
Yes.
I think that can translate to sales.
Yes.
Maybe it's where sales goes to die.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us a little bit about some times where you've really seen the follow-up turn a deal that seemed dead into something real again, and then how we can find the energy to do that when sometimes it feels like we really don't want it.
Yeah, it's that you actually are, a quote on one of the follow-up courses that we do, where you told us, hey, I follow up this very specific follow-up structure when I close this XYZ deal. He doesn't even remember anymore, but we do have his hands and face on some copy of ours. So yeah, listen, the advice I give around follow-up and follow-through is the type of advice I can't hear myself talk about anymore. Like, I've talked about it so much, but it's consistently the highest value piece of advice that I give. Measured on the amount of emails I'm getting on a daily basis. At this point, I get 2-3 emails a day with people telling me, I just closed a $300,000 deal by following your follow-up advice. We just hired this person. I just published a blog post on hiring and how you have to really think long-term. And another handsome fellow right behind Anthony, Nick Persico. You go, this guy, I was following up on trying to hire him for 3 years, 4 years? 3 years, every fucking month, right? And I don't give a shit. Once I know I want to work with you, I think in decades. I have the next 20, 30 years to make that happen. It doesn't really matter to me if it happens this year or next year, right? That's the timeline that I try to apply. People that have hired amazing people, press, investment, hundreds of millions of dollars of value has been created by me screaming at people that need to follow up more. So I just keep doing it out of a sense of duty that I know that this is really valuable, although I've heard myself say the same thing a million times already. The maybe thing, I think doesn't just apply for startups or for sales, but it's really, to me, if you're in sales, your number one job is to create outcomes. Yes is great, obviously, right? Yes is the preferred outcome, but no is equally good. To me, no. If you get 100 no's, you're not going to be ignoring that. That's clearly something is going wrong here, right? Either we're trying to sell to the wrong person, the wrong thing, or I am the wrong type of human to even attempt to sell something to them. But something is clearly strongly going the wrong way. If you get a lot of yeses, awesome, right? I know I'm doing the right thing. Let's do more of it. It's that maybe zone where you don't know what the fuck is going on. And there's no clarity on what to do. And usually in that bubble of maybe, people just make up the story they want to make up. And with most salespeople and entrepreneurs, we have a big flaw, which is that we're such positive thinkers and we're hopeful and we think the world is going to be a better place and we think we can change things. So when you have a lot of things in the maybe stage, you probably are fooling yourself that too many of these will turn out into a yes. And most of the times, if something is stuck in the maybe stage too long, it will stay there forever.
Yeah, I think there's 2 really important things there. I want to go back to the first one first and put Nick on the spot a little bit. Nick, what did Steli say 2.5 years in and finally got you?
3.
3, yeah.
Well, Nick worked for us. Nick, so Nick was one of the, so we were running an outsourced sales team on demand for startups, B2B startups in Silicon Valley. We did that for over 200 venture-backed startups. And during running what was then called Elastic Sales, we built an inside sales CRM called Close, first just for our own needs, and then eventually we released that, and that product became a bigger business than the main thing we were doing, so we just fully focused on that. Nick was one of the first salespeople we were renting out to startups. And then he was the first person doing sales and marketing for Close.io, right? So we knew he was pretty amazing. And then he broke our heart and left, right? He left because one of our customers offered him an amazing opportunity. And he was like, all right, let me do that. Let me move up in my career. And right after that, he started his own company. So he became a founder. So we had to go through all kinds of life stages on this journey with him and be very patient. We helped a lot. It was kind of a dual thing of helping him wherever we could and telling him, if what you're doing isn't working out, we're going to be the next stage of your life again. So, but what convinced you ultimately?
Well, I think what ultimately happened was I came back to you guys because my company was like failing and we were about to shut down. So it was just like the knowledge that they were always going to be there for me. Just they were the first people that I talked to say, "Hey, this thing is happening. Give me advice with that first." And then they were like, "Well, by the way, when that shuts down, like let's keep talking about that." So since they were always just keeping in touch at all times, more or less, or every month for 3 years, they were the first folks I went and talked to tell them about what's going on in my journey right now, and it kind of, it worked out that way. So they were just there, continuously following me.
Very flattering version of the story, but this is exactly what you want to be. You're just the first person they think of. You know what? The truth being, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't need him to tell me, well, I never loved the company more than clothes, and I knew there would be only one option. I don't need to hear that bullshit. It doesn't have to be romantic. Like, he needs to be happy in what he does today. He needs to be fulfilled. He needs to be challenged and excited. He needs to want to stick around. But I'm okay with I would bet a lot of money that at any point in those 3 years, if somebody would have woken you up at 3 a.m. in the morning and said, what's the company on this planet that wants to work with you the most and wants to hire you the most urgently? He would have just said clothes, right? He knew there was no fucking doubt that we want to work with him because we never left any doubt about that. And when the time was right, he didn't even have to think, I wonder, who could I work for? What is another company that would be a good fit? He just went straight back into our arms.
That's exactly.
I thought a little, something romantic I had to throw in there, but yeah.
But it sounds like it's not just that you were following up, because you said you were there to help as well, and you were there to advise and answer questions, and you were delivering value. Right?
Yeah.
So that was an important part of that.
And I'm sure if it wasn't a fit, but all jokes aside, if he left close and thought, these people were fucking horrible, I hated every minute of working there, and then he worked for another company, and then for his own company, he thought, my God, now finally I'm working with really talented, awesome people and great shit. He wouldn't have just said, well, they talked to me on the phone, I hate them, but I guess I have to work for them because they've been following up. He wouldn't say yes.
Yeah.
See how that worked? So it needs to be a fit, right? Just because I follow up with you forever, what I'm trying to sell you is something that has zero value in your life. I don't think that that's going to work out, or that is a worthwhile endeavor. But when there is a fit, if I know that I can create value and we're a good fit, I'll never let go.
So we're in one of those times of the year right now where it's really easy to stop following up because we start focusing on that tunnel vision of the end of the month, right? The end of the quarter. And so I think probably one of the places where we could dive into following up even a little bit more, because I think as much as you talk about it, there's still plenty of people who probably aren't doing it, don't really understand how valuable it can be. What should everybody take away tonight relative to following up about what they should do tomorrow on deals that aren't going to close this quarter?
So my advice on that is very simple. Take the amount of follow-up you do today, double it. If just 10% of this room do that, we've made the world a better place. I guarantee it to you. We really made the world a better place that way. So my follow-up philosophy is very simple. There's a lot of nuances, right? So it's different when it's cold versus when it's warm. So if I had a conversation and I'm convinced there's a fit, there's a different type of path that I go down to than when I've never talked to you and I'm reaching out to make that first connection. When I reach out to make the first connection, if there is a connection, if there is a fit, I will follow up with you forever, indefinitely. This means forever and ever. I will never stop following up until I get a result. I don't care. Yes, I'll leave you alone. I'm not even one of these people that's like, yes, no is the first step to yes. That is true in some cases, but I don't have time. I don't even have time for that. I don't optimize for turning no's into yeses, except if it's really important for me. But mostly it's not. But if I don't get a response from you, most people will assume it's a rejection. I don't. I assume you're fucking busy. You have a life. There's something else going on, and responding to me is not top of your mind. So I will just follow up and champion that relationship until it was the right time for you to tell me yes or to fuck off or something. But I'm not going to leave it in that with great 3 calls and a great demo, and then they just fell into the depths of the earth, and I don't know what's going on with them. That you'll never hear that from me.
So I'm going to give you a story from earlier today where I was talking to a friend of mine who's working a deal with this large coffee maker that we all know. And she said, I followed up, but it's his cell phone, and I'm calling him in the morning. He's on his way to dropping off his kids, and I don't want to bother him. What would you say to that?
Okay, so you have the cell phone of the person. Who gave that to you?
He did.
He did. Ah, that's awesome. All right, so you didn't stalk him for his cell phone. Okay, and in the morning, he brings his children to school. Can you call at a different time?
Yeah.
Have you done that?
He's been specific about telling her to call in the mornings.
Oh, so he told you he wants to talk to you while he's bringing his children to school.
Yep.
And have you done that?
So how far does forever go in this situation?
Well, most of the times when I go through these therapy sessions, I realize that the problem is not the prospect. The problem, it's us.
Sure.
It's the story that we tell ourselves about the things. Like it's the same thing with, I always say, like, my basic advice in business is like, the equivalent of it in like health and fitness would be eat broccoli and work out. Like, what do I need to do to lose weight? Eat fucking healthy shit and work out. The problem about that advice is that I don't want to eat broccoli and I don't want to work out. One doesn't taste good, the other thing takes effort. So can you give me another version of this? And that's why there's an industry, and every year there's 10 million books coming out and new diets and new workout. Why? Because people don't want to do the thing that it takes for them to get what they want. So they are looking for an answer that they want to do, right? And similar with most salespeople, they come to me with their problems, and it's their problem more so than the prospect's problem. In this case, let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say, he told her to call in the morning, he told her to call while he's bringing his children to the school, but then every time she calls, he's like, because the children are screaming and crying in the background, he's like, well, maybe that's not a good time today, can you call me tomorrow? And she's done that 10 times already. This is unheard of. Nobody, like, this type of problem typically doesn't go with a reasonable challenge. It goes with, I think this is not good, or I'm mind-fucking myself not doing the thing, right? But if even that were to happen, I would challenge her to challenge him if there's no other way. So at the 10th time, I would tell the person, listen, dude, I love you, and I love your kids. Let's have this call, let's power through this together. And I don't care if your children are crying in the background, we'll get through this together. It happens every day, so it's not like an unusual occasion. I'll help you, I'll distract you from the crying. Or, if that's not an option, give me another time. I just need one time. I don't want to be calling you every day. I'm wasting your time, my time. Your children are thinking, who's that crazy lady who's calling all the time? So let's find another option and get this done and get either to a result that makes you money and makes this work, or let's get off this fucking thing and both move on with our lives. I would challenge the prospect. If he sets me up in a way that constantly we both are failing means we're making zero progress here, you need to push back and tell the person, hey, it isn't working out, we need to figure this out right now.
So I want to tie that back to something you said a few minutes ago, which is around the maybe. Right?
Yes.
Let's start with the premise that probably the fear of picking up the phone and calling while this guy's dropping his kids off is I'm going to get a maybe. He picks up, I'm going to get a maybe. What can we be doing to prevent that?
I think people are more afraid of the no than the maybe.
Okay.
I think most people optimize their pitch to get the maybe. Right? So they set it up in a way that's like, you know, could this be interesting for you? And then people go, maybe. They go, awesome! Let me send you some more information. You do whatever you do, discuss it internally, and I'm going to wait for you. I have all the patience in the world, and whenever you're ready to buy, you know my contact information. That's what I find, like in a, exaggerated version of it. I don't think that people are afraid of the maybe. They're optimizing for not getting the no. They're afraid of getting a real rejection, hence why we're okay with a maybe. Maybe could turn into a yes. A no seems kind of a definite thing, which I believe is also bullshit. I don't think that a no is definite. But yeah, I think that people don't want to get to a clear outcome because they're afraid that if I have 10 deals in the pipeline and I push really aggressively today to find out yes or no, make a decision, many people might say no. Well, what the fuck do I do then? Right? It's the same thing. I'll give you a little YC story. When we went through Demo Day, this is 2011. I was one of the more cocky, arrogant, asshole versions of the founders then. I had gone through fundraising before very unsuccessfully, where I raised nothing in 3 years. So I was like, in YC, fuck that shit. I'm not gonna go through hell again. So we got 50 or 60 investors to be interested in our deal and reach out to us after Demo Day. And I had this email set up, and it was basically, hey, so excited and honored for your interest. Here's the deal. We're closing the round in 2 weeks. These are our terms, and they were like the most ridiculous terms ever. If the timeline and terms makes sense to you, let's jump on a call. If not, let's stay friends. Who knows, down the line there might be a chance for us to work together. Right? I wanted to force a clear yes or no. I didn't want to fuck around with 60 people, have coffee meetings, because while I sit there having coffee with you as an investor, you're making money, this is your job. I'm losing money. I'm sitting there for an hour, I'm not making any progress with my business, I'm losing money. So I wanted to make sure I don't fuck around with all the wannabes, but just talk to the people that are really ready to do this, right? So I sent out this email in a hotel room at night, and I feel like a pretty big badass. I'm like, fuck these investors, like in a really nice, loving way. Like, and they don't have control over me, and I'm not gonna go through this thing again where I'm like, I'm trying to please all of them. And I feel pretty good about myself. And then the first response comes that's like, all right, no thanks. I'm like, all right, I can deal with that. And the second response comes, no thanks. I'm like, all right, 2, whatever, that's 2. And by the 5th no, I started to internally panic. I was like, I just fucked up our company. Like, I just fucked it up, boss. Like, we're not gonna raise money because I thought I'm gonna be this badass. Oh my fucking God, I started panicking, like walking up and down the room and thinking, how do I save this? What do I do? What do I do? But thankfully, I knew that I was in an emotional state. So I was like, you know what? I can't do anything right now. It's too late. I already sent these emails. Go to sleep, and tomorrow morning, you'll see how many more rejections you get, and we'll come up with a game plan. And the next morning, I had a few more rejections, and then a few people that said, yeah, that sounds totally cool. Let's talk. And then I was a genius again. I was like, I'm brilliant. Obviously worked exactly like I wanted it to. So this is to say, it's not that nobody's above liking rejection. I don't know anybody who loves rejection. There's people that have got desensitized to that. There's people that have learned that it's part of the deal. But I don't know anybody that's like, yeah, I want people to tell me what I do is bad, and that gives me some. I mean, maybe there are some people that get some pleasure through that pain, but I don't know anyone personally. And people think I'm that way, but I really am not. And by this point, I don't even remember what the question was. so giving this back
I
to
think
you.
you answered it.
That's all I need to know. That's all I need to know.
I want to shift gears a little bit. You wrote an article recently that widened my eyes. I sent it around to a bunch of friends. They all loved it. And the title was something to the effect of "Startup Culture is Killing Sales Culture." What are we doing? What's happening? How are we killing sales culture?
Well, first, who here? This is too late. Usually, I would ask this very early in the process, but whatever. I just thought of it. So, do me a quick favor. Raise your hand if you've never fucking heard of me before this very moment. Like, you just came to the meetup, but you don't fucking know who I am. Be really proud of that. That's very good for my ego. Shows me there's still a lot of work to be done. It's okay. I just wanted to have like a sense for the room of how many people know some of my content. Some people are just like, I like this meetup, and whoever the fuck talks. All right. So the article was. It's a grander theme that I talk about a lot, which is that I think that the ideal salesperson, and this translates also into sales teams. And I'll speak a little bit about how startups are messing with that. But it's not just startups, it's just startups. It's particularly strong there. So I think back in the day, the old model of being an exceptionally successful salesperson was kind of the Wolf of Wall Street type person, which in a quadrant, if you want to like psychoanalyze that personality type, you would call them unfriendly and strong. Right? So an unfriendly and strong personality type is somebody that's out there, that thinks the world is a zero-sum game, and they're out there to fucking kill the competition, take away the money from the customers, just crush everybody, right? They're out there they're not very friendly the way they think, but because they're strong, because they communicate from a point of strength, they bully people into submission. They get what they want because they push and pressure people to give them what they want. These people succeed in life oftentimes, many times unfortunately so, but they do. But they don't create a lot of value along the way. So it's not, oftentimes, there is a challenge with like longevity. Their customers, the people that have been pushed into submission, they don't come back for the next 10, 20, 30 years to keep buying from them, right? So these people typically thrive in industries and thrived at a time where you could just burn through customers indefinitely, right? You just didn't give a fuck. You just got as much money from that customer that you moved on to the next one. And there was just a big enough pool to do that. In today's world where reputation is a much more visible thing that sticks around forever, and where it's harder to do that, it's a more challenging game to play, but there's still room for that in the world. The exact opposite of that, in the kind of that psycho-quadrant profile, is somebody that is friendly and weak. If you think somebody that's friendly and weak, think of your favorite or unfavorite like arts teacher, maybe somebody that's always like apologetic that they exist, always like apologetic. I'm so sorry that I'm in the room talking to you right now, but would you mind listening for? Like they're always, but they're the nicest people on earth. But a funny thing happens when somebody is weak in the way they interact socially with others. They will turn you into an asshole. Like they will make other people take advantage of them. Just socially, the social dynamics dictate to take advantage of people that display a massive amount of weakness. So unfortunately, these people should be the most popular, most value-creating people on earth, but they're not oftentimes. So the model that I preach for what I believe the perfect type of salesperson is, and especially the future type of salesperson, a salesperson that will succeed over the next 30, 40 years, is somebody that is friendly and strong, right? And one ideal model of thinking of somebody that's friendly and strong is a good parent, for instance, right? So good parent comes from a loving place, loves their children, but needs to have authority over them. You can't be their friend, you're not their equal. You need to be their boss. So, when it's late and your children are hungry and they're tired and they turn into fucking maniacs and they're running around, they're screaming and they're throwing things at you and telling you they hate you, you cannot start screaming.
Your parent.
Well, I have 2 boys, right? So, and they come after me personality-wise, but thank God look-wise after their mother. So, when it comes to when you have that kind of a situation, a good parent, you're not going to start screaming back at the child and be like, I hate you too, don't you know what I've gone through to raise you, you ungrateful. You don't start, you realize this is a child, I'm the parent, and you tell them, all right, little buddy, I get that you're tired and hungry, but here's how it's going to go down. You're going to put on your pajamas, you're going to read the story, then you're going to sleep. And then even as the child starts screaming, you put on the pajamas, you have assertiveness, you have clarity and comfort, you know what's going to happen, and eventually you realize the kid just goes, fuck it, all right. That seems like he knows what he's doing. And then they're just going to go with it, right? They just push for a little while and then let go. And similar with prospects and customers, or another model maybe for those who aren't parent is a good doctor. Just anybody that's an expert. They come first when you come to them, you want them to be empathetic, you want them to care, you want them to be friendly and to want the best for you. You want them to pay attention, ask you questions, and try to figure out what is really going on. You don't want to walk through the door and the doctor goes, you need surgery. You don't need that, right? Just like you don't want to talk to a salesperson who's like, you need to buy our product. Wait, motherfucker, you don't know anything about me. Like, chill, let's figure this out first before you know if the product is right for me or not. But once we've gone through the analysis and through asking questions and through testing and MRI, and once we know what the problem is, you don't want them to be wishy-washy. You want them to have authority and tell you, I'm the expert, this is what we're doing. And if you go, well, but I don't want to do that surgery, it's not an option. Like, if you have something that's life or death, we're doing surgery, we're doing it, we're scheduling right now, it's happening in the next 48 hours. Like, you want somebody that has that level of authority because you are not an expert. And same with the great salesperson. A great salesperson is somebody that wants to create value, that only wants to sell to people that should buy, and where buying will mean they will get much more value from the exchange than what you charge them. And only that, and you really want to make the world a better place through selling. But you do it from a position of strength. You're not asking, once I know that somebody needs to buy my product, I'm not asking, I'm telling. Like, it's not an option. We're not 2 equals figuring out what should we do. I know what we need to do, and I'm going to tell you. And the same thing applies to teams in a broader spectrum. You want sales teams to be friendly and strong. And internally this means, the old school sales teams, they were hyper competitive and unfriendly with each other, right? It's dog-eat-dog world. I need everybody else to fail here so I can succeed. I need to get the good leads, give them the bad leads. I want to be the number 1 on the ranking board so everybody else needs to do worse than me. And that's a pretty toxic culture. And as startups, and I think increasingly as the businesses of the future, again, because there's so much more transparency, because there's so many more options of where you can work, people don't want to work in super toxic environments where everybody wants you to fail and everybody is sabotaging you all day long. Life is too short for that shit, right? So you're like, this sucks. Everybody here is just an asshole. This is no fun. So I think that too many startups today, they've created this friendly and uncompetitive environment in their sales teams. They're like, all right, we want no commissions. We don't want to know who's the best salesperson or whose quarter or month was good. We're not going to we are one team, so we're going to be reporting the entire sales team's numbers. And we're going to hire 10, 20 people, and then you all figure out how to collaborate and let's close the customer all together, like in a committee. Let's just sit down and everybody works a little bit to make this deal happen, right? And I get the appeal of that idea, but it creates a lot of issues, right? It creates sales teams that don't know how to sell, that are not competitive, that don't develop that kind of cultural strength and certainty that you need to have within your sales organization. And what ends up happening is that the people that are your top performers, they will get miserable and they will start being either suicidal or leaving the company because they can tell that I'm bringing in 12 times the amount of customers than this other person does in the same amount of time, and we get paid the same, and there's no difference between what the two of us, the recognition we get, our career, anything. So that is an incredibly frustrating thing that happens, and I see more and more sales teams, they're overly concerned about like culture, which I think is super important, but they create this like bullshitty culture of like the sales team will just operate like the engineering team, and we're going to pretend that that's a viable model, and I don't think it is.
So what's the path back then? Because I think you made a good point when you said it exists in startup culture, but it's also starting to exist in the broader business culture where we do have to have some degree of that weak and friendly personality at some level.
Friendly, right? Not weak. So, if you think about top performing like sports teams, for instance, right? If you take like a basketball team that's at the top that's at the top of the NBA, these people are insanely and fiercely competitive. And they want to be the best player. They want to be the best in whatever they do in the entire league, in the world, but also within the fucking team. They're competitive with each other. But they're not competitive to the degree where they want everybody to fail, because it doesn't fucking matter if all of you guys fail. As long as I make my points, I'll get the super duper bonus. And like a salesperson in a very hostile environment, they're going to make tons of money. Doesn't matter if you fail, right? Doesn't matter if you as a salesperson have a horrible experience. So that because every salesperson's pocket would be completely disconnected from everybody else's pocket and results. If you think about sales culture and team of the future more as like an athletic team where we need to work together to win those championships, to get the best out of each other, and we're going to be fiercely competitive with each other, but in a friendly way, in a way where I want you to be the best version of you today, and I want to be better than that. I don't want you to be a shitty version of yourself. I don't want you to get the shitty things so I have an easy time to be the best. Like, I don't wish that for you. I just want you to be great and I want to be better, right? That's the kind of culture that you need to create, I think, to attract and retain the best talent. And I think that lots of companies in the future, especially right now, startups, they are attractive because it's cool to work for a startup, it's cool to work in a technology business, it's cool to have the fantasy of hockey stick growth and explosiveness and IPOs and all that cool shit. And so a lot of salespeople will come because of that. But I think if you work in a team where many people underperform, that's going to fuck with you. And that's going to fuck with you mentally and emotionally. It's going to also make you weaker. It's going to slow your own growth down because you're not surrounded by excellence in your own team. And I think that ultimately that can't be a good thing.
So when you say that, I see a lot of heads nodding, but let's dive into that a little bit deeper because a lot of people who are here are going to walk back into those offices that you just described tomorrow, and the onus is essentially going to be on them to reignite this sales culture that you're talking about, the strong, friendly sales culture.
Yeah.
So what does a sales rep do if they walk in tomorrow and they want to be the spark for change there?
So first of all, raise our hands. Who thinks that could be something that is an issue right now in the company or the team they work for? There you go. So we have to multiply that by some number. Because I don't know how many people work together here. They're like, fuck that, why should I raise my hand? But thanks for the people that raised their hand. So I'll still keep this short, and if you are one of those anonymous people that have a friend that has this issue, just shoot me an email. And we'll talk about it. Steli@close.io. But I don't think it's that complicated. Like you just need to be able to perform in that framework yourself. So show up and push everybody in your team to be their best version. Again, from a friendly place, but not from a place that's just supportive for supportive sake. So if somebody is fucking up, tell them, hey, I think you can do better, and I want to help you, but you need to step up your game. We all need to do that. Instead of just saying, hey, I think everybody has a bad month, everybody has a bad year, I think you're doing really okay, so just keep going. Instead of giving that bullshit like encouragement, just be honest and real with people from a friendly place. And be, just do that yourself without trying to have a meeting about it and be like, I need to talk to the CEO, or let's have a team meeting and I'm going to tell them some asshole at a meetup said something about teams need to be friendly, and I think our whole team structure needs to change. And then people ask you a few questions, you're like, oh shit, why did I bring this up? Everybody hates it, now I look like an idiot. Just do it yourself. Pick one person on the sales team and go like, this, the two of us are going to be version 1 of this, right? Tell that person about it and go like, let's get more competitive with each other, let's push each other for more excellence. If that works and it really enhances our performance, we will start getting more people to attach to this idea. And if not, if you're one of those people that are like, I do this amazingly well, but the company and the team just doesn't want to do it, and they all suck, and they all suck forever, well, let's find a better team. Then they need to move on and find a team where that works for you, that works out for you.
I think a lot of what you're talking about is very fundamental, right? It's below the tactics almost. It's like, how do you get the energy to actually employ the tactics? But zooming forward a bit, a sales conversation in 2017 is remiss without a little bit of a touch on the tools that are out there, the tactics that are being employed that are brand new, that are cutting edge. Obviously, everybody in here is talking about how AI is going to either completely fall apart or it's going to replace salespeople, right? And you're generally on one of those two poles. What do you think, once we put the fundamentals aside, what do you think is going to lead the charge in 2017 from what's new and exciting in the way of sales?
Broccoli and workout is what is exciting for me. Honestly, I don't care about like the newest fucking like diet workout, Roomba with yoga included with an infusion of whatever the fuck you do to work out and have fun. I don't care about any of that, right? So to me, certain fundamental, like I love Jeff Bezos as a CEO, and one of the most mind-blowing things that they thought of from a strategy point of view from Amazon was that early on they realized technology is going to be changing at a rate that we won't keep up with. So instead of trying to figure out what's going to happen next and how can we be part of that, let's ask the question, what will never change? And then let all decisions that we make follow along from that philosophy. So their thinking was, well, what will never change is customers will never go, I want to pay more for the same product. And customers will never say, I want to wait longer to get what I want. So they made some very fundamental things that they said, that's going to be true in 10 years, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 years. Still, people will want these things. So now, let's make all our decisions on how to use technology a servant to that goal. How can we make things go faster to the customer and cheaper, right? In the same way, the same philosophy I try to apply or to use for everything I do, and the same thing is true for selling. People will, I think that the more complicated the decision that you're asking humans to make, the more support they need and the more friendly strength they need. The more they need somebody to figure out, is this really the problem and is this really the solution? If it is, somebody needs to infuse confidence in you and direction to make that decision happen and to turn it into reality. That's never going to change, bless you. So I think that's, if you focus on those fundamentals and you are better at that than anybody else, yeah, you can use technology today to cut out manual data entry and to move productivity levels in terms of how you do outbound and email and cold calling and all that. There's lots of tools you can use, but the tools are a supportive act to what the fundamentals are that you're trying to deliver, which is making your customers win and creating massive amount of value to them. And making sure that that happens in a faster and faster timeline. So your customers, they make the decision to implement your solution in 2 months versus every other competitor's customer, it takes them 9 months to make that decision. That's a really killer differentiator that you can bring to the table as a salesperson. It has nothing to do with the technology that you bring to the table. So that's the stuff that I would focus on. Most of the people, I have so many people that email me about their AI-powered sales tool, right? And most of the time when I ask them to tell me a little bit more about the AI aspect of it, it's clear that it's all A and no I, right? So it's just like, there's no fucking intelligence in this. Like, and I say that lovingly. It's just AI is such a cool thing to say. It's not artificial intelligence. There's no fucking thing that's like, it's some basic machine learning, maybe, and many of them don't even have that. Like, it's just, there's nothing there. But AI just sounds so much better today than not having AI. So that's what you say, right? So I would, if I was in sales, yes, use some tools to do your job better. I'm not saying don't use any kind of basic technology or knowledge that we have today about gaining muscle or losing weight. Like, use some of the common knowledge that's proven that's out there. But don't focus on like, what's going to be the way to do that in next year, in the next year, because you're always going to be a few steps behind, and you're probably going to be investing multiple months into the year in something that's never going to work. And you're like the first pioneer to figure that out, right? And if you do that every fucking year, you're wasting so much time and energy.
Awesome. I want to ask one more kind of fundamental question, and we'll turn it over to questions from the audience. But you and I talked a little bit beforehand about, it's kind of in vogue to say mindfulness, but we're in the last 8 days of the quarter here. And Joe asked everybody beforehand who's already on top of their number, who's a little stressed about their number. More hands went up for the second question.
Yeah.
So all of the fundamentals again aside, what are you telling your team to also do in the next 8 days to make sure they're not getting completely overwhelmed by the reality of chasing a number?
So I can't speak directly, I can't just use the words I would use with my team in this room because we don't have quarterly pressures on our team, right? So we're profitable. We are this unique little beast where we have a tiny team that does pretty big business, and so we don't chase the quarter to quarter, the month to month thing. We don't have these pressures, and so that's not a stress that our salespeople and our team is experiencing. So there's nothing that I'm telling them that I could just tell you guys. I honestly think that, like, I truly believe this comes back to the follow-up and long-term, and Jeff Bezos all comes into, I think that most salespeople are not thinking long-term enough. I think most humans aren't thinking long-term enough. The thing I'm most inspired by when I talk to people that have created, the friends of mine that are billionaires and have created incredible change in the world, the thing that I'm always most impressed about is how long they're thinking. It's like how long-term they think. And that is always what blows my mind. It was really challenging for me to do. So I think that most people, again, the quote of like they overestimate what they can do in a month and they underestimate what they can do in a year or a decade. And a year goes by faster than we all know that these years, it's the beginning of the year, then shit, the year's over. And we know these decades, like, oh shit, when did it happen that I went from like my 20s to my 30s or whatever? Like, we know that time flies by pretty quickly. So if you use that philosophy and you're like, this is what I'm going to do the next 5 years and the next 12 months, and you optimize for that, you're going to be in a much better place than trying to optimize for. If you're in a fucked place this quarter, here's the deal. Anything you can do in the last 2 weeks to make the quarter better is going to fuck your next 3 quarters, most likely. You're going to take a bunch of shortcuts that are bad. Right? That's what you're going to do. You're going to do a bunch of shit that's going to make certain numbers look good, but then you're going to struggle so much more in the next few quarters because you fucked up some things. You closed some deals you shouldn't have closed. You made some people sign something that they weren't quite ready yet. Like, you made all these like funky things happen, crossing your fingers thinking hopefully something's going to work out here. And you're going to make short-term decisions. Long-term will never serve you. So if you're in a bad place right now, fuck it, own up to it. Like, it's going to be a shitty quarter. Just deal with it. Swallow that pill. But my advice to you would be, right, what did I do not last quarter, or not what did I do this quarter to create a shitty quarter? What did I do the last 12 months to create a shitty quarter? Right? Because the results that you're getting today are the results of your past hustle. It's what you did a year ago is what's creating, what you did 6 months ago is what's creating your results today. This is very confusing again for us as humans, because when things are going well, we relax because we think the actions of today are generating the results of today. We're like, I don't do anything and still deals coming in and crushing it. This is so awesome. Right? But it's the stuff that you were doing last quarter where you think you were struggling and your quarter wasn't good, it was shitty, and you did all this extra work towards the end of the quarter, and if you didn't do a lot of short-term work, it paid off in the next quarter. But equally, you might be doing all the right things right now and correcting a lot of the things, and you're not going to see instant gratification. Just because you're now working on the right things, tomorrow is not going to be a great day, or tomorrow is not going to be instantly raining money. You're going to have to wait 1 or 2 quarters to get the results of that. And you don't like it. I don't like it either. We don't want to do that. Like, we look at that and go, sure, I need to eat broccoli and work out to lose these 500 pounds extra that I've gained over the last 10 years, but I don't want it. Right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this situation. But I don't have an answer for you that includes something that's easy for you to do and you wanted to do anyways. Because if you wanted to do it anyways, you're already doing it.
I think it's great. I think the answer is easy. And I think I heard 3 major things over the last 45 minutes or so. The first one is show up, follow up, close the deal. The second one is find a way to compete. Go grab somebody in your office tomorrow. Build a contract with them and start actually doing. Don't worry about a meeting. Don't make a big initiative. Just do. And then the third one, which you just mentioned, which is think long-term about yourself, about your customers, about the activities that you're doing and the actions that you're taking. I think those are 3 incredible points. I want to turn it over to questions from the audience.
All right, let's get the first question. Yes, sir.
Hey, awesome talk by the way, Stella. Thanks.
Thank you.
So there's like what you're saying, a lot of great stuff. But I feel what's really coming through to me is how you're saying it. You seem to have, well, it's pretty obvious, a lot of energy, a higher energy level than most. How do you get that? Was that born, or do you do rituals? Like,
yeah. So that's a good question. So I think part of that is my personality. So I can be very passionate, but it doesn't mean that I'm like that all the time. Right? So most people think that I'm just, especially when you see me on like a big stage, people think that just every day I'm just kicking doors and screaming at people, right? And I'm not like that. There's people that are like that, but I'm not like that. Like I have two stages. Either I'm screaming at you, or I don't want to have to deal with anybody. I either want to be in front of 1,000 people or nobody, right? So I'm on the I am not always like that. I like to be alone. I like to I hate networking events. If you put me in a room and there's tons of people and it's like, go and talk to everybody aimlessly until you find somebody that's interesting or where you can create real value. I'm like, kill me right now. I've learned to do it. I'm like, suck it up and do it. If I'm here, I might as well do the thing we all agreed to do here. But I don't like it. I find it like painfully inefficient and I have to talk an entire night to get to one productive conversation. It just sucks. But so I'd rather just be in the corner and be by myself in those situations. So I'm not always like that. So for me, energy and passion, for me it comes through the asking yourself the question, what gives me energy and what costs energy? I love that framework also for time management. So instead of trying to manage your time, ask yourself rather, how can I manage my energy? Right? And there's multiple things you can do to increase your energy. Right? There's a physical component to that. Right? So what you eat, the broccolis, the workouts, all that gives you a bigger battery life or more intensity in your battery. There is a mental part of this, right? So your attitude, the way you look at the world, the kind of question you ask yourself will influence the type of energy that you infuse into your life, right? There's a spiritual part to it. There's multiple levels of that. But so when I talk about things I truly care about, and when I talk to people about these things that I care about, I just get loud. I just get, it's just a natural thing. I just get passionate. It doesn't matter if I'm on a coffee shop with a founder or if I'm in front of a large audience, I start getting louder and louder, more animated. So I've just designed a life today where a bigger and bigger portion of my time is dedicated to things that give me energy versus costing me energy. Not to say that it's all. Not to say that it's constant. This is another thing where long-term thinking is. We all have this illusion of arriving at a place. Like, I'm striving to get balance in life. Balance is not a destination. It's not like a city or a hotel or some place you check in and then a balance. Pooh, finally found it. I'm 40 and now I'm balanced for the rest of my life. Balance is an act, a constant readjusting, and you gain it and you lose it, right? And similar with this stuff, there's times where I get a lot of energy through most of my day, and there's times where I think, why is everything so difficult? And why is it? Usually when things are difficult, it means I'm doing them wrong. I'm doing the wrong thing and I'm doing it the wrong way. And that's usually when I'm like, oh shit, yeah, well, I need to course correct things. So doing more things that give me energy makes it easy for me to be passionate. I'm sure the Greekness in me and my DNA also helps. Right? So people that absolutely love what they do, but they're just not loud. They're just not animated. It's just not part of their culture or their DNA. That's probably also a big part of it. Right? Yes?
In terms of competition, how would you recommend fostering competition in an early stage startup where we're basically all teams of one and you can't necessarily afford to hire like 2 salespeople?
Yeah, so how do you do that when you're a tiny team, right? So there's 2 things. One is you challenge each other and you create a culture of people seeing what you can be, not what you are, and challenging you to be that today. Like you want to have people that don't just believe in you, but that demand that belief is manifested, that you are living up to that. Right? And coming from a loving place because they want you to succeed, they want the company to succeed. So that's part 1. And then part 2 is you find outside competition. Right? So you go, all right, what is the industry we're in? Or who else do I know who does sales in a startup, let's say? And then out of all the people that I know, who's the best? Like I would start asking around the investors of the startup or the advisors or other people I've worked with or colleagues, anybody I know, who's the best salesperson you know that's working at a startup? And then I would talk to these people until I find somebody that I'm like, hey, you seem to be way ahead of me. You seem to be, you would be crushing me if you work with me. I just want to be like, I'm going to be pinging you once a week, telling you my results, the things that I'm doing, and I just want to get some feedback. And just, whatever, you just turn that person into your competition, right? You ask them to tell you what they've done, and you're like intimidated. If you're intimidated and if you are dreading the call or the email you have to send to them, good. You choose the right person. If you're like excited, oh, another coffee meeting with, Mary, it's the wrong thing. Like they're not challenging you enough to make you feel uncomfortable, make you feel intimidated. It's like, I'm gonna tell them the shit I done, and then they tell me what they've done, and I'm gonna look really bad. That's what you want. Again, discomfort, but that's what you're seeking out if you want real growth. Yes. Question in the very back row. Yes.
Yeah. So one of the main things that you mentioned was the fact that even if you just say no, you still follow with them. That's something that we deal with every single day.
Can you speak up? What do we do with people that say no and then following up?
Right? People say no and you still follow with them.
Yeah.
You know deep down they're a good fit.
Okay.
How do you do that? Because we're in a high pressure sales environment, so a no is no, like I don't talk to you again, like fuck off. So how do you like tell yourself like I know this person is a good fit? And what do you do about that to make them see that they're a good fit?
Yeah, so what do you do basically when you are in an environment where, let's just accept that we're in an environment where people will tell you no a lot and you need to keep following up with them, even when they say no. Because you're pretty convinced that they are a good fit for whatever reason, right? So, I mean, you have to find a good balance between taking that no seriously, but not too seriously, right? If you don't take it seriously at all, fuck you, right? Like that's from a customer perspective, you're like, no, well, you don't know if, let me tell you, you don't really know that this is not for you, and I know better. I'm like, fuck this person, right? Like, they're not taking me seriously. They're telling me that what I'm telling you doesn't matter in my life. Like, it matters a lot. I believe that I'm right about myself, right? So that's too harsh, and a lot of people will try that. Again, pushy, super overly dominant. Well, no, it just means yes, so you really mean yes. No, motherfucker, I said no. I actually meant it at the moment, right? I really mean no. So don't tell me what I mean, and don't tell me that it doesn't matter what I say. So you need to take me seriously, but not too seriously, right? So what that means is that you need to acknowledge that I just told you no. And actually, one thing that I found that creates that can make magic happen is it's not just what you say, but how you feel when you say it. If somebody tells me no and I sound defeated, I'm like, I do this. Well, are you really sure? Yes, right? I'm basically what I'm communicating between the lines with my body language or with my tonality is that I'm defeated and I actually agree. When I ask the question, I believe the answer is going to be yes to, and I'm bummed by that. But I can't do that. But I can't also go when they go, no, I don't think this is a good solution for us. Well, it is a good solution. That's not going to work either. So that over-aggressive, overpowering. What I found worked really well is when I can create an energy that communicates that I expected you to say no, and I'm actually okay with it because I think it might turn into a yes. Right? So you can if you wanted to say something, you would say, I would go, are you ready to buy right now? And they go, no. And I'd be like, great. Most of my best customers at this very moment said no. Right? So I know that you're likely going to be, if it turns out that this relationship works out, you're going to be a really long-term customer. This is going to be a great relationship. Let me tell you, I knew that you probably would say no. Let me tell you why I called you anyways. If I say, this is not interesting to me, and you go, I assume that you would say that, and I still called you. Let me in a sentence tell you why. I'm going to pay attention to that sentence. Why? Because it's not what I typically will encounter. It's not the energies that the person sounds like they're leaning back, they're comfortable, they expected that, and they still want to keep talking to me. That alone, that comfort level, doesn't mean that I'll turn into a yes, but I will keep listening. Now you better have a really good reason why no could mean yes down the line. You need to tell me something I didn't know before, right? But that's the approach that I would take. You need to recognize the no, you need to realize they need it in this moment, but also the underlying message is, you haven't gotten the information you need to really make a decision right now that's truly educated. So we need to continue for a sentence or two since we're already talking. Yes.
So
you're gonna be next.
So you're like really knowledgeable, like so many different topics. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You're super knowledgeable on a lot of different topics. So my question is like, how do you educate yourself? Like, where do you learn this stuff from? How do you learn it?
Yeah. Pain was. Just like experience. I've done a lot of shit in my life, and most of that stuff did not work out the way I wanted it to work. And I kept going at the same rate, which is tough. Usually you do things that don't work, you start slowing down, right? Because it doesn't feel good, so you don't want to keep going in that direction. If you can maintain going in the direction, the same speed, some people accelerate even. I look at those people and go, oh my fucking God. Like, I'm not there. But I just kept going the same kind of speed, taking my punishment. And if you do a lot of shit in your life, you'll learn a lot of things. And if you're not afraid of doing things you're not quite ready to do, or you're not at all ready to do, you'll learn even more. Now, it's not nice learning, it's a painful one, but I've just done a lot of things. I've been an entrepreneur since I'm 17, 18. I dropped out of high school, right? And started my first business. And that kind of worked out well, and then I did the next thing. And the next thing, 10 years ago, I sold everything I had, bought a one-way ticket to Silicon Valley. I knew nothing about software technology. I arrived at SFO and I asked somebody how to get to Silicon Valley. Right? For those of you who don't know, it's not a city. Like, it's not a place. But that person was nice enough to go, you mean Stanford? Palo Alto? I'm like, Stanford, I've heard of that place, yes. Like, I didn't know shit. And I know lots of people that have done the same thing, more or less, that are like, I'm going to go to Silicon Valley and start a startup, and they come and they leave really quickly because it's super fucking painful. It's not that easy to do. And I had both the ignorance to do it, but then I also had the tolerance level of pain to just not quit until I figured it out. So, but most of the, if you look at people that have a lot of knowledge, people that do a lot of, like, anybody that you're consuming a lot of content from, like, they write books, they give a lot of talks, they do podcasts, you're like, how do they know all these things? Life experience usually. You have to pay an admission to have content, stories to tell, things to know, like real life experience of like, this works, this doesn't work. I don't know a shortcut. I mean, there are people that are geniuses, like, first thing they did, boom, the Google guys, Zuckerberg, like, there's some people that just, first thing they touched, turned to gold, and they were brilliant enough to like live up to that challenge as it grew. But that's so rare for mortals like me. It's life experience, the hustle. All right, I need to get that question first. I'll get to you guys. Yes.
So, in regards to like the long-term goals that you mentioned, what as a leader, what is your advice for somebody who is working month to month or quarter to quarter to help them internalize that and also be successful and look at the long-term goal of the company?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I've never given general advice about this, so this is an interesting question. Usually I try to be contextual and just figure out who are you, what are you doing, what's going on in your life, and then give advice based on that, but you can't do that in this room. So if I had to give an answer, I would say that if it's not a mind frame that you have been living so far, I would come up with a baby step plan to do that. Don't be too grandiose. Don't go, we'll lose 500 pounds in one day. Set the world record. That's setting yourself up for failure. So what I would do is I would ask myself, okay, I've never thought long term. What's a simple, practical way for me to get started? And maybe something could be, all right, I interact with lots of customers. Maybe I do thousands of cold calls and I have like lots of customers. It's more transactional. You know what I'm going to do from now on? Every month I'm going to pick the challenge to find one customer of the decade. Like one customer that I'm going to try to build a relationship for the next 10 years with. Maybe it's somebody that's young and ambitious and I think will go places in the world. Maybe it's somebody that really does amazing work and is just a true, incredible human being. As I'm going to kill it and take over the world, I want to be the person that's going to like help that person get more chances, more opportunities. Whatever your framework is, you just, as you talk to hundreds of people every day, you don't just talk to them to sell, you talk to them and you're also a screening for who's that person that I'm going to sell, but then also invest in a relationship with. Make sure that I keep up with their career, keep up with what they're doing, offer help whenever I can, and do that forever. Right? That could be an easy, simple, practical thing. And then once you start doing this, I found that once you start shifting your mindset in small steps where you do them consistently, you build momentum. All of a sudden, you think in other ways that way. And you're like, oh, why don't I apply the same thing here? And then there, and 5 years into it, not overnight, but 3-4 years into it, you've shifted in your life and direction that it's going to has shifted dramatically. But I would try to find a baby step to begin with, something simple. Yes?
I have two questions. First one, what are the things that you care most about? And second one, are you following Grant Cardone?
First, my 2 sons. I don't know. But more than that, even before I had children, I care about creating a lot of value, and I care about personal growth. I care about pushing. I get depressed if I look back a year ago, and I think that everything I said a year ago was pretty. If I don't look back a year ago and think I was a total fucking idiot and knew nothing, I'm getting scared because I know I wasted a year. I know that I didn't really learn that much. And again, it's not like every year I learn so much, and every year, this test I fail almost every second year, right? It's like, you know, I push myself out of my comfort, I learn some new things, I'm challenged, I master these things, shit, and then I enjoy that for a moment, and like, boom, now I'm successful, now I know what I'm doing, now I create this new level of value, and I'm like, I'm enjoying it, and then I go, oh shit, a year's passed, and I've been like in that fog of success, and I haven't taken the next step. So personally, I just really need to have the feeling that I'm pushing myself to grow. But in terms of life, the cliche thing I fucking care about that show more than anything else. That's really the coolest thing in my life. So the second thing, do I follow Grant Cardone? I know who Grant Cardone is. I think that he's an interesting character, right? I'm not a big fan, but I'm also not somebody that's like, she sucks at everything. Like in most things, I think that there's not a lot of black and white. There's a lot of gray in the world. There's a lot of things that he does that I think are tactically working, and some of them I would still do today, and some of them I think are really stupid ideas to do. And they work when you have his kind of business or the type of business that he teaches people how to sell to. But I don't think it's really a good idea to do that. There's some things of how he's building his business that I'm like, it's badass, it's really good. And there's some things about him or his life where I'm like, that's pretty shitty and kind of psycho, right? So I have multiple opinions on him, but I would never tell somebody what to like or not like about somebody else. I know who he is, and I think that some of the things he does are worth looking into. Yeah, for sure.
We'll talk about one more.
One more question, make it the best one yet. No pressure.
How you doing? I'm Derek. I'm a former account executive who turned myself into a software sales recruiter because I couldn't fucking find any good recruiters. So my clients are people I used to work for, and candidates are jobs that I've done. So I've covered this huge problem. How many people in the room, seriously, stand up if you legitimately want to be a sales leader one day? Manage a team. I'm just talking about fucking stand up. Seriously. Stand up in the room if you want to be a sales leader and manage a team of quota-carrying people. No bullshit. Now, sit down if you've never done it. If you've never managed a team of quota-carrying people. I'm not talking about SDRs, I'm not talking about SEs, so that's about half. So I keep running into this problem where you have to have done it before you can do it, right? So a lot of sales leaders say, bring me candidates that already are sales leaders. So if you're one of those people that sat down, what's your advice to them to close that gap? How do you become that first-time sales leader? Have you ever hired one? So the last question for you. Have you ever hired anyone into a sales leader job that was never a sales leader to work for you? Or have you ever hired one to carry a quota that had never carried a quota before? So those would be some good examples.
I've only hired sales leaders that have never been a sales leader, and I've only hired salespeople who never had a sales position before.
Wow.
It's actually policy more than anything else. It's not an exception, it's the rule.
Because I've ever heard that.
Because I know how to teach people to be good at sales, but I cannot unteach you all the bullshit that you've learned about selling. And I find that, no offense to the people that are here, you're the fucking, like whatever I say, if you don't like it, ask yourself if you don't like it because it's what you need to do, or if you don't like it because it's not for you. If it's not for you, it shouldn't bother you at all, right? If it bothers you, it's probably for you. So my belief is that if somebody's truly exceptional, they should be almost unhireable. If they're truly, if you're the person that I want to hire, I should not be able to hire you. Right? And when we did recruiting internally, one thing that we would tell people is we would hire them and then we would say, hey, like lots of people when they do referral recruiting, they go, who do you know who's looking for a sales job? Or who do you know who is in sales? Or who do you know who would be good here or something? And then this person is not going to apply all these massive filters. And what is going to come out of it? Just the worst type of people, like the people that have nothing going on in their life. So the question I would ask, in a loving way, so we have all been that type of person in our lives at some point, like, believe me. So what I ask instead is I say, who is the most talented, amazing person that you know that would never work here, never would ever consider working here? That's the person I want to talk to. That's my opener. Hey, every time I work with Bob, Bob just joined here, and every time we hire somebody, we ask who's the most talented, most genius person they've ever known in their life. Yours was the name that came out first. I'm always interested in getting to know amazing people. Just want to chat for 10 minutes. I know there's no chance of hiring you, so let's just get to know each other. You know how many people we hired that never wanted the sales? Like they would have never considered a sales job. And then, if it's the right person, they will gradually fall in love with you and the opportunity, and you will gradually fall in love with them and then you have something special going on. That's the way I approach, but that's not the, if you wanted to be a recruiter for custom clients like me, you'd be fucked, right? Because there's not that many, or probably nobody. So, but that's my answer to you. It's probably not what you wanted or what you expected, but that's the truth. All right, that's it. That's all I got. Hey, one thing. If you had a question that we didn't cover, or even if we covered a question that you had, but you have a follow-up question, just shoot me an email. Steli@close.io. I'm always happy to help salespeople, always happy to help people that are entrepreneurial, that want to make things happen. Just ping me. There is a bundle we just released, by the way, if you want that. So I've written a number of books, ebooks around selling different types of sales. Hiring is a book that we just released. Before that, it was like how to go up on sales as a startup. There's all these books that were written, all these templates, resources, cold email, all that shit. Over 25 resources, templates, books, stuff like that. You can get that all for free if you shoot me an email. Just say bundle motherfucker, and I'll shoot you back a link. And you're gonna be able. Usually when I say that, most email subject lines, there's like one or two that say that, and the most of them are bundle please, or bundle. And then I did this at 500 startups the other day. It's like I had like 100. Book motherfucker, every single person. Like, book motherfucker. So just shoot me an email if you want to get all the content I've ever done in like one download. Then that's the way to go. But thanks for listening and thanks for asking great questions. Thanks, guys.